Today, we're going to talk about the Vermont Title Loophole, how it's supposed to work, all the documents and paperwork you need to get the Vermont title, and why it didn't exactly work out for me living in the state of Ohio. It all started with a 1988 Acura Legend I won on eBay for just $350. Now, the seller was in Columbus, Ohio, and he was selling the car, which was originally titled in his mother's name, who lived in Colorado. She passed away 10 years ago, and the car had been sitting ever since. It didn't really bother me that it didn't have a title because I really just wanted the inky wheels that were on the car, and I was going to part out the rest. But when I went to pick up the car, I realized that it was 99% rust-free in Ohio. So I decided I'd try and get it running and worry about the title thing later. And a couple months later, I did have it running, and now I wanted to drive the car on the road, but here in Ohio, you cannot do that without a title. And also, Ohio is one of the most strict states when it comes to getting a title. So if you only have a bill of sale in Ohio, you're screwed. I actually stopped by the DMV one time and asked how I could get a title for a car that was only sold with a bill of sale, and they basically told me I had to scrap the car. So I figured I'd give the Vermont title a try. Now, the internet calls it a Vermont Title Loophole, but it's not actually a loophole, and it's not illegal, as long as you're not using the Vermont Title Loophole to retitle a car that has a salvage title or get a title for a stolen vehicle, which I'm pretty sure they check the database of stolen vehicles before they issue the title anyways, so I don't even think that would work. Also, the internet calls it a title, but it's actually just a registration. You see, in Vermont, when a vehicle is 15 years of age or older, they only issue a registration, which also acts as a title. The Vermont registration has all the usual registration info on the front, like the vehicle information and the owner information, and then on the back it has a bunch of blank fields that you would fill out to transfer to the next owner, just like a title would have. And the state of Vermont allows anyone in the US to register by mail. They are more than happy to take your money, and they'll send you a registration and green plates and even an annual renewal, which you can renew by mail or even online. So the idea behind the Vermont title is, let's say you have a vehicle with no title but a bill of sale. Now the vehicle has to be older than 15 years for this to work. The idea is you register it in Vermont, and then you take that Vermont title registration to your local DMV in your state and then transfer it to a title within your state, just like any normal out-of-state title process. Unless you are in Ohio. The ladies down at the DMV, they were not happy when I walked in there with Vermont title and tried to get it transferred over to an Ohio title. But more on that later. First, let me show you how easy it is to apply for a Vermont title by mail. So here is all the paperwork I had to mail in to get the Vermont title. Now I did this back in 2021 when things were still kind of on a lockdown from the pandemic. So if you do this now, there's a fifth document you'll need, and that is the VT-005 odometer disclosure statement. They waived that back when the pandemic was going on, so I got it kind of easy. But I will put links to all this in the description to make it easier for you to get the documents you need. So first, let's look at the application form. Don't fill out any of this up here or this. They'll take care of all that in the office. Fill out your information here, your address, contact information here. And down here is where I filled in the seller's name. I didn't have a signature because I didn't even know about this when I bought the car, so I just left that blank and it worked. So maybe that'll still work, I'm not sure. Now with the odometer disclosure form needed, I believe the seller's signature is going to be on that. And you want to check new registration, and then you put in your vehicle information, Acura Legend, 1988, sedan red, the mileage, and it's used, 6 cylinders, the VIN number, and car. This is all for heavy duty trucks, motorcycles, ATVs down here. Leave all that blank. And the purchase price, $352, but they actually charge the tax based on the NADA value, which I also included. This I printed out from the internet. NADA guide price report. I had the date of when I sent this in, so it was May of 2021, and I have the low, average, and high retail. I took the average retail even though the car was in pretty poor condition, I didn't want to press my luck and have this rejected and have to do it all over again. So I just did the $11.50 amount and put that in here for the NADA value. Now, skip this over here, come on over to box number 9, and the registration is $76. The tax, which is 6% of $11.50, is $69. And there's a warranty here, which I thought I needed to fill out. It was only $6, so I figured, why not? And it turns out, after I got my plates, they actually sent me a refund check in the mail for this $6 warranty. So you can leave that blank. And then sign and date the bottom and send it off in the mail. Oh, and there was one other thing here. Some people say you don't have to check these. I did, just because I didn't want this to come back because it wasn't complete. So I checked spouses. So if I died, the car would go to my wife, and she would probably be mad about that because she wants nothing to do with it. So I'd get to piss her off one last time after I was dead. And then I also included the original bill of sale, which I received when I purchased the car. And again, this was 2021 when things were still on kind of a lockdown. Right now, you got to do it using the odometer disclosure form. And then I printed this out, which was also in lieu of the odometer disclosure form. They wanted you to print out a VIN plate of your car. And I included a couple pictures just to show the horrible condition. There was no interior here. The paint was all faded. And I also included a screen capture of the original eBay auction that showed I purchased it for $350. And that's it. I put those in an envelope along with a check for the total amount and sent it off to Montpelier. They say you can use any of their DMV addresses, but I chose the Montpelier address because it's the main office. So I'll put that in the description as well. And then about 1 month, a little over a month later, I received this in the mail. And this has my registration along with my tag on it. And then another week or two later, I got this in the mail with the plates. And then about a month after that, I received the check for the $6 refund in the mail. So I did it. I could now drive a car for which I had no title when I purchased it legally on any road. Well, for the most part. You see, there's an Ohio law that says after you're a resident in the state for 30 days, you have to get your plates switched over to that state. And technically, if an officer wanted to pull you over, he could and write you a ticket. Now, I didn't drive this car every day, but it does stand out in the crowd with a bright green plate. So if you did drive this car around the same town on a daily basis, technically an officer could write you a ticket. So although I didn't drive much the first year, when it was time for the renewal, I figured I'd go into the DMV with my Vermont title registration and see about switching it over to an Ohio title. And it did not go well. So I sat down at the desk with one of the clerks, and she was going through the paperwork, asking me for my license and whatnot, and my current title. And I gave her the registration and explained that in Vermont, for a car over 15 years of age, the registration is the title. And she flipped it over and saw the back where you can sign it over to the next owner, and she said, "Oh, okay, haven't seen that before." So a minute later, she said, "I have to go grab the Bible." She walked back over with this big, huge, thick binder and slid it down on the table, and she flipped open to the Vermont page, and I saw a sticky note stuck on that page. And I thought, uh-oh, this might be a problem. And she picked up the book, went into the back, and started talking with the manager. They were back there for a couple minutes, looking out the window, kind of pointing at me. And she came out with the manager, and the manager started grilling me. She started asking me all these questions back to back, like, were you ever a Vermont resident? Where'd you buy this car? Was the previous owner a Vermont resident? And just grilling me about all these different questions. To which I answered honestly. I kind of played dumb because I knew there's a chance this couldn't work. And it turns out once she realized that I was dumb and she knew I wasn't trying to scam the system or anything, she calmed down and she told me, okay, look, our investigators have let us know that people are doing this to obtain titles for cars which they did not have a title for when they purchased. And I said, oh, really? And she told me that the only way that I might be able to get a title for the car in its current state is to fill out some form. It was like $75, mail it into the state of Columbus, and then from there, You'd have to go in front of a magistrate along with like this other form. And it was basically up to one magistrate's decision if I was able to get a title for this car or not. So I said, wow, gee, that seems like a lot of paperwork. Can't I just renew it through Vermont by mail? And she said, no, that's illegal. I said, really? So, difference of opinion, I don't know. I don't think it's illegal if you're not trying to either wash a title or title a stolen vehicle. The DMV seems otherwise, but that's Ohio for you. They are one of the worst states when it comes to titling a vehicle. So hopefully your state will have better luck. If you are in Ohio, don't plan on it working. So I'm stuck with this car. I can't sell it in the state of Ohio because I don't have an Ohio title. Now, I only bought the car for content for the channel, and it did that very well. So I listed it for cheap, and I ended up actually trading it for a 2007 total beater status Honda Fit. At least I can retire my Land Cruiser and put it away for the winter, keep it out of the salt, and now I'm getting 37 miles per gallon instead of 12. My only other option to ever get rid of the Acura would be to part it out and scrap it, which not after I put the work into it, it was too nice. Or I could sell it out of state to a buyer whose state still does accept the Vermont title as a way to transfer to an in-state title. However, the list of states that do accept the Vermont title, from what I've heard, is shrinking. I've heard there's been issues in Indiana as well as Pennsylvania, and by now, who knows, maybe other states. So do your research first before you go through all the trouble and cost of registering the car in Vermont, because you may be stuck with it, like I was. Now, if it's only something you're going to drive around on occasion, for example, my friend has Vermont plates on one of his drag cars, which he just drives to and from the strip once in a while, you know what? You might want to try and risk it. Chances are a cop's not going to pull you over unless he's looking for a good reason to write you a ticket. Maybe, if you're driving like an a-hole or you got dark window tint, something like that. I probably could have kept the car on Vermont plates and drove it around occasionally, but you know what? It's another vehicle that I didn't really have the space or the time for. So that's my experience with the Vermont title. I hope this helps some of you, and I hope it'll help save good cars from being scrapped, like I was able to save this $350 Acura Legend from the grave. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about anything I've told you today. None of this was legal advice. I am not an attorney. I'm just a guy who likes to buy cheap vehicles, fix them up, and keep them on the road. Thanks for watching.